Sooner Sports, powered by Fox Sports, is presented by your Oklahoma Chevy team dealers.
We have to focus on this meet right now. Always everybody contributing at the highest level. Each team has their own strengths.
It's like watching a #1 draft choice in football.
They are spectacular.
We're going to have to hit 24 for 24. We're going to have to be real solid out there.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
That's the greatest position to be in, is the underdog. This is what's important, not 2 weeks from now.
Welcome to the Lloyd Noble Center on the campus of the University of Oklahoma here in Norman, Oklahoma for today's 2013 NCAA Women's Gymnastics Regional Championships. Hi, everybody. I'm Bart Connor, former OU All-American and Olympic athlete, along with Kelly Garrison, who has the same accolades. Happy to be working with you, Kelly.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great meet. We've covered a couple of dual meets here already from the Lloyd Noble Arena this year, featuring the Sooners. But today there's a lot on the line because there are 6 teams in this competition today. Only the top 2 will advance to the NCAA Championships, which is 2 weeks from now out at UCLA. Oklahoma, of course, is the #2 ranked team in the country, but they will have strong challenges from the other 5 teams. But from those 5 teams, there are probably 2 teams especially we need to watch out for, and they are, of course, #11 ranked Stanford and Penn State.
That's right. You know, the Sooners have been solid all year long, so I don't really expect anything different today. They're just a great team. They're ranked #2. The other 2 teams really will be duking it out, as you could say, Stanford and Penn State. But, you know, in our sport, they're doing such high, difficult gymnastics. You know, one slip up, and one of those other 3 teams could just pop right on in there. And so it'll be fun to watch to find out which 2 teams go make the big dance.
All right, a lot on the line today from the Lloyd Noble Arena. I'm Bart Connor along with Kelly Garrison, and we're going to be bringing the action for the next couple of hours. Stay with us here on the Sooner Sports Television Network. Welcome back inside the Lloyd Noble Arena. Here on the campus of the University of Oklahoma, we're getting set for the first rotation of competition. There are 6 teams, 4 teams competing simultaneously. Let's take a look at the OU women's statistics. 16th straight NCAA appearance, first nationally ranked on the beam in the floor, Big 12 champion just last week. And they have done especially well in the academic area as well. The Sooners will open up on the vault. There are 4 teams competing simultaneously. It is literally a 4-ring circus. The other 2 teams are on byes, and basically they're waiting in between. So what we're going to do is what we would consider groundbreaking coverage, because we will feature one team in the main screen. In this case, it's the #2 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. But all the other teams who are competing will be seen in their entirety. So we have over on the bars, the beam, and the floor, 3 other teams competing in this rotation.
Well, as you can see, Bart, Taylor Spears is starting off the vault. This is the first time for her, first up in the lineup, and she nails it. Good job. Sooners are going to be happy with that. KJ Kindler's been working so hard on sticking those landings, and that's exactly how you want to start it off. Good job.
Good job for the Sooners on the vault. They open up there. Iowa is on the bars. Southern Utah on the beam. Washington on the floor. Stanford is on a bye, and Penn State is on a bye. Just like all gymnastics competition, there are 6 athletes from each team competing on each event, with just the top 5 scores counting towards their team totals. Taylor Spears, the #6th ranked athlete in the country and the all-around, off to a good start for the Sooners there. The Sooners are highly ranked everywhere. Bars, they're ranked 2nd. Floor and beam, they're ranked 1st. The lowest ranking event for the OU Sooners has been vault, and KJ Kindler spoke to me about that the other day. She said, you know, we just haven't necessarily recruited for those power athletes who really boom the big vaults.
That's right, and you can see that obviously they're still very talented. It's just a matter of nailing the vault. When we say nailing, that means sticking it. You might hear us say rock solid, rocking it. And so we really mean a rock solid landing where the feet land and they do not move. So we're getting ready to watch Madison Mooring, and she has that blind landing on her vault because she does a half.
Madison is a junior out of Sallisaw, Oklahoma.
Yurchenko layout half. Great job. Another stuck landing. You see KJ just in the background.
Speaking with KJ the other day, she said if the Sooners are going to contend with Florida, Alabama, Utah, UCLA, Michigan, the top teams in the country, they're going to have to just nail their vaults because they're not necessarily as big a vaults as you see from the other teams, but landings like that are going to help the Sooners a lot today and in the future, a couple of weeks from now at the Nationals.
And you know what? Most importantly, it's going to give them the confidence that, look, I can stick this vault. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to stick it again.
Keely Kamichek now will be the next performer, the freshman out of Naperville, Illinois.
You know, Bart, she just came off that the emergency tonsillectomy, and so she hasn't been out of the gym for 2 weeks, which is just a lifetime for a gymnast. So it is great to see her back in the lineup. And you know what? She was the 9-9 girl for the Sooners. She competed 3 events for them, and every event she was a minimum 9-9 score. So this is very important to get her back in the swing of things and prepare her for the national championships, get her confidence back.
Here are the scores for the first 2 Sooners. Taylor Spears a 9.85 and Madison Mooring a 9.925.
Sounds like a great start.
It's a new high score for Madison Mooring on the vault. That stuck landing, impressive.
Well, it's the last thing that the judge sees the gymnast do. And so it leaves that lasting impression in their mind when they get their pencil out to write down that score. Good job for Keely coming back. After being out, I can't begin to tell you, as you know, Bart, how strenuous, mentally too, that is to come back and have to hit a routine. Good for her.
Sooners have had some unusual injuries and people out. This is... you mentioned her tonsillectomy, which she had been getting sick off and on all season, and they decided they had to go ahead and get her tonsils out. She's missed 3 meets. But also Kayla Novak was a headline story here in the Oklahoman paper the other day about her broken back injury she suffered in December, which has ended her career, so she is on the sidelines. And one athlete they're happy to have back, however, is Meilani Kaneva, and we'll see her on the vault. She is especially powerful there. But Bree Olson will be the senior out of St. Cloud, Minnesota, who will be next up for the Sooners.
Well, and Bree is what I call just the Sooner rock. She is the go-to girl, and vault is no different. Her highest score is a 9.975, and so we're really looking for that stuck landing. The Sooners are really testing themselves today also, trying to better themselves, and as KJ put it, to maximize their scoring potential, which is exactly what Madison Mooring did.
Scoring for Keely Kamichek was a 9.825.
Nice. Yeah. You just got to love their energy and enthusiasm, because I'll tell you, watching warm-ups, I'll be honest, they looked a little nervous. They looked a little stressed. And KJ kept saying, get loose, get loose.
So the 3 scores for the Sooners so far, 9.85, 9.925, and a 9.825. Expect a big score for Bree Olson. What body position? She didn't have to pike down at all.
It's almost like they choreographed a part of her floor routine right there afterward. Now here comes the vaulter. So this girl has got raw talent.
She is the freshman, Miley Kaneva. She had an unusual wrist injury this year, which is essentially a artery sort of collapsed in her wrist, and they had to go in and replace the artery. And it was just a very unusual awkward kind of thing to have to deal with for a young gymnast. They said it was she had the veins of a 90-year-old for some reason in that section of her wrist.
That is weird. You know, she's a freshman, and in her 6th meet, she was Big 12 champion. And right here, she might be,
wow,
regional champion. I don't know that, but you can see that the lift that she gets up off of the vault, she gets the height and amplitude, which is exactly what the judges are looking for. Watch right here. You'll see it pop. Wow.
I was at the SEC Championships a couple of weeks ago, and I saw teams like Alabama and Florida, and those are the 2 of the top teams in the country, and they do gigantic vaults.
Right.
And so that's the kind of vault you need to do to contend with the best teams in the country. And she's just a young freshman, Miley Caneva. Score for Bree Olson's vault, which she stuck nicely, was a 9.85. So the high score for the Sooners over there, Madison Mooring's 9.925. Haley Skaman will be the final performer of the 6 to go. She's one of those other standout freshman athletes that have really sort of boosted the quality of the OU team this year.
That's right, and she does the hardest vault in the competition, a 1.5. You know, that step is, it's the downfall right now. But you know, she gets the added bonus kind of for doing the risk of the harder vault, but you've got to be able to control that and control the power and energy when you do a vault like that.
The score, by the way, for Miley Caneva was a 9.9. That's true. Haley went for a vault that has a higher risk, essentially, for landing forward and also adding the additional half twist, although many of those vaults all have the same start value, a 10.0 start value. I always feel like she should get a little bit more reward for going for something slightly riskier.
Right, I think they should, but it's so hard anymore to ascertain which skill, because it might just be easier for that certain gymnast to do a full 1.5 versus just a full.
Now, we mentioned the top 6 teams that are competing here. There are also a group of individuals who are not necessarily on one of the top teams in the country, but they are competing as individuals for a chance to make it to the NCAA championships 2 weeks from now, which brings up Sammy King out of Illinois State University.
Here she does Yurchenko layout half. Same vault as Madison Mooring. Took a step, but you know, it was a nice, clean vault. If she has a clean meet, she might be one of those gymnasts to, you know, not every gymnast in college anymore does the all-around competition, and so a lot of them are just individual event, you know, athletes.
She is one of 2 athletes from Illinois State University who have qualified here as individuals. This is their 2nd time to make it to the national regional qualifier.
You know, Bart, something that's interesting is when I did gymnastics, I was that girl also. I was the individual. Unfortunately, our OU team, the 2 years that I went to nationals, they did not qualify. And so, but I did, and so I went on. And so I kind of feel for that gymnast. When I was watching warm-ups, I'd go by and pat him and say, good luck, good luck.
We are now in this 3-ring circus because the Sooners have completed the vault. And now this is from the University of Iowa. This is Emma Stevenson, the senior out of Winfield, Illinois.
Well, you can really see her power, can't you? Trying to hit those handstands. Gearing up right here for her dismount. A nice double layout and a stuck landing. Incredible, wow, awesome. Oh, I hope she's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Aw. She tripped over the
guide wire?
The wires to hold the floor, the bars together.
She's pretty pumped up.
Replay.
All right, well, it looks like she's okay and probably going to expect a pretty good score.
You know what? Thank heaven she's okay, because Iowa has had the injuries this year, and they certainly don't need another one.
We're covering the University of Iowa because this is one of the events where they're highest ranked in the country. They're ranked 18th. Bars and floor are the events where they have done especially well. And in fact, you mentioned their injuries, but 20 of 24 routines that are on the Hawkeye program come from underclassmen, freshmen and sophomore athletes. So a lot of youth here and a lot of potential for the Hawkeyes from Iowa. Keep in mind what you're seeing over there on the balance beam is Southern Utah, who is competing over there in floor exercise.
You know, I was talking to Coach Libby of Iowa in warm-ups, and she just said, you know, we've really just lacked depth this year. Even earlier this year, she had a gymnast who had the same injury as Kevin Ware. Now, most people are familiar, having watched it probably on the internet, the basketball player who recently broke his leg. And I was talking to her, and she said, well, here's the girl right here. She was walking in. 3 weeks ago, she did this injury, almost 4, and here she was walking in. Athletes are really tough.
Adara Griffin now for Iowa on the bars. Penn State's on the floor.
You know, Iowa is ranked 16th on bars in the nation. And so they've really got a great team. You can see why right there. Look at that. Nice landing, stuck dismount, clean routine.
She's a freshman out of Moline, Illinois. They have 8 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 3 seniors, and no juniors on their team. And for 11 consecutive weeks, they've been in the top 25 ranked nationally on bars and the floor. So they are very excited about Iowa's start in this first rotation on the bars.
For those of you at home, you can only imagine the excitement here in the arena. It is so fun to watch all these teams. I mean, you get to see the best college gymnastics right here. And so, you know, whatever you do, don't walk away from the TV set, because you're getting to see unbelievable routines, talented gymnasts, individuals, team competition. And, I mean, it's just fun to watch.
And what I think is really terrific is this sort of very groundbreaking coverage where you're allowed to see all 4 events going on simultaneously. Now, in the main screen, of course, you're seeing multi-camera coverage of what is being featured. But we have single-camera coverage of all the other apparatus. So I hope those of you at home who have maybe a favorite team and are wondering why we're seeing in the main screen a group of athletes maybe from Oklahoma, Stanford, or Penn State. But keep in mind, in the smaller boxes, your team and your favorite team is going to be seen in its entirety throughout this entire competition. Great stuff for the Sooner Sports Television Network.
I know a lot of parents out there and grandparents that are real excited because of this new technology. You know, when you're waiting to compete, just like this young lady about to go, you know, it is nerve-wracking sometimes when you have to wait for the judges. But you just got to keep focused on your routine, your skills. Think about exactly how you're going to perform your moves as perfectly as possible. Here she's getting ready for the floor exercise.
The scores for Washington on the floor: Phoebe Tham had a 9.65, Kirsten Graber a 9.725, Allison Northey an 8.625, Paige Bittler a 9.775. The final 2 performers, Aliza Vatcher and Lauren Rogers, 2 of their best.
Nice, clean routine. Love the choreography.
Aliza Vatcher is a junior out of Eugene, Oregon.
I'll tell you what, Bart, you know, they have brought on Elise Ray, who was an Olympian in 2000, bronze medalist, and she has done all the choreography for Washington, and it is just beautiful. It's fun to see a program kind of change up their choreography and bring some new life, new energy to it. And Coach Joanne Bowers just praises her. Wow, nice double pike.
She is qualified as an individual to the Nationals the past 2 seasons.
Pretty.
And looking good here today. On the balance beam right now is Rachel Updike from Missouri, who is one of the individuals competing in that group along with the team from Southern Utah. We'll have one final performer for Washington on the floor, which will be Lauren Rogers, who's one of their stars.
You know, Bart, when you're watching a split screen, sometimes you just can't decide who to watch. And I always gravitate to the balance beam. Wow, now I can clearly see why. She just did a full twisting back handspring. That
really
was
difficult.
That is incredibly hard, even for international competition. This beam routine is stacked with difficulty. Earlier, she did 2 different turns. Most college gymnasts will not take the risk and kind of perform maybe an easier skill with the same value. But she is going all out, and I really praise her. It's, from an aesthetic standpoint, it's beautiful to watch, to see that level and talent of gymnastics.
Good job for Rachel Updike from Missouri on beam.
Wow, that was pretty. I really enjoyed, you know, being a beamer myself. I got to enjoy watching another beamer.
That is one of the challenges when we're doing 4 events simultaneously. Excuse me, that was from Southern Utah, Jamie Armijo. Rachel Updike will be next on balance beam for Missouri. This now on floor is Lauren Rogers. Set another career high in the all-around at the Pac-12 championships just last week.
Nice front handspring, front full, or front layout, front full. Kind of playing with the crowd. It's a required leap combination. You know, when you pick different music for floor, it's fun to kind of try to match your personality so you can encompass the music as you're performing. Ending with a nice double back dismount. You can see that she does that. Great job. Here's a look at her last tumbling pass. Again, a nice high double back dismount. Good job.
Good job for the senior out of Plains, Pennsylvania.
You know, knowing that they've had 2 major injuries in the last 3 weeks, I know Coach Bowers couldn't be more happy with that floor rotation. One of their key players, who was a very powerhouse girl for her, broke her ankle yesterday, actually here in practice. And then another gymnast had an ankle injury earlier at Pac-12s.
Joanne Bowers, the head coach at Washington in her 7th season, formerly an assistant at the University of Michigan. And the final performer on the floor in this first rotation will be the other individual athlete competing here from Illinois State University, Kim Genero.
We see this sometimes, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, especially when you're waiting to get a floor, sometimes your hands, they kind of get sweaty right before you're going, and so you can see the girls, sometimes they're wiping their hands off and you know, stretching and trying to keep loose, because when you're waiting and the judges, for some reason, they're not quite ready, they're conferencing, you can see them in the corner over there conferencing. And the reason they conference is usually there's a discrepancy in one judge's score versus another. Maybe they didn't start the routine at the same start value. One viewed it one way, another viewed it a different way. But they'll get it together soon, and you just got to learn as an athlete to just handle any pressure situation. She's starting out with nice high double tap. Oh, unfortunately, you see that she raised the flag, which means that she stepped out of bounds, which will be 1/10 deduction. You know, not only do you get bonus in your tumbling, but also you can get bonus in your dance elements. The routines all start from a 9.5, and then they have to gain 0.5 tenths bonus, as I said, through tumbling or dance. And that's how they start at a 10.0. So that obviously the higher you start, the more likely you can get a 10. Bart, you should know all about that, being married to Nadia.
Yeah. She was pretty good at tens.
She was pretty good at tens, and she started it off. And she was the first gymnast ever to score a perfect 10. And every gymnast honors her just because of her perfection. Great job on the floor exercise.
She's a pretty good mom, too.
Is she a pretty good mom?
We have
That's great.
Nearly 7-year-old son. Proud of that. All right, well, we'll be back with the second of 6 rotations from Norman, Oklahoma. Once again, it's a 4-ring circus. The Sooners off to a strong start on the vault, which they're very proud about. When we come back, we'll update you with the scores of the first rotation and take a look at who's moving on in the next rotation and who's on a bye.
Due to time constraints, we now move ahead in our coverage on Fox Sports.
Hartwell right into a gainer full off the side. So you can see she's a little disappointed, but you know what? Sometimes that happens in the bigger competitions. Finished with nice, but was not finished up nicely though.
Chantel Turk from the University of Illinois, Chicago. So that will wrap up the second of 6 rotations. When we come back, we'll update you with the scores and let you know how everybody's doing. The Oklahoma Sooners off to a great start on the vault. They were on a bye, and now they'll move to the uneven bars. We'll be back to the Lloyd Noble Arena right after this.
Now my head's in the clouds. They can't bring me down. Got a smile on my face. Can they see me now? See me now.
The team has competed very well, been very consistent through most of the year, and just a great group of young ladies who really have had everything thrown at them and done a great job in accepting every challenge that's come their way and really pushing through. We're excited to be here at Oklahoma. It's a top-notch university who knows how to run a championship, and we're just excited to have the opportunity to compete.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the Iowa Hawkeyes. This is their 6th straight NCAA appearance. As I mentioned earlier, 20 of 24 routines by underclassmen. It's a very young team with terrific potential, so we wish them well as they improve over the next couple of years. They had a good performance so far. They've done 2 events today. And the crowd pretty pumped up as they know there's a lot on the line today as the top 2 teams of these 6 teams will qualify to the NCAA championships, which happen in a couple of weeks out at UCLA. I'll be out there covering that event for ESPN. Let's take a look at some of the scores after the first couple of rotations. This is a little confusing, I have to tell you, because not every team has done the same number of events, but Iowa, you see the scores for Iowa and Southern Utah there. The Hawkeyes have done 2 events, so their score 96.525 after 2 events. Oklahoma and Stanford have each done 1 event, and they are separated by about 4/10 of a point, with the Sooners over the Cardinal at this point, and the Cardinal expected to be one of the strongest challengers for the Sooners. And let's take a look at the scores. Penn State has a total of 97.75 because they've done 2 events. And their 49.075 leaves them the Huskies on the left, 97.75, and the Nittany Lions from Penn State on the right. Have only done one event, 49.075. So relative to the University of Oklahoma, they're about 0.4 of a point back. So the Sooners will now move to the uneven bars, an event where they have done exceptionally well this year. They're ranked 2nd in the country. I'm very proud of the variety of the routines and the difficulty in the routines that the Sooners do. And head coach KJ Kindler is proud of that, as well as the assistant coach on bars in particular is Lou Ball. Here's where the teams will move in this rotation 3. Penn State will be on the vault. Washington's on a bye. Oklahoma on the bars. Stanford on the perilous beam. Iowa on a bye before floor, and then Southern Utah will be on floor in this rotation. As customary, the gymnasts get what is known as a one-touch warm-up, which is, for the most part, it's about 30 seconds per gymnast to go through their final prep, test the event, and make sure that everything feels good. What did you do during the one-touch? Did you do a full routine or just a few sequences, or what worked for you, Kelly?
Oh, you know, Bart, sometimes I did, depending on the event, and it also depended on how warm-ups went earlier when we first got to the arena. You know, obviously you don't have time to do a full sequence on balance beam, so you just kind of do your major skills. I was always concerned that I didn't want to win warm-ups, that I wanted to win the meet, and so it was kind of a different philosophy, because sometimes I would do a full bar routine, sometimes I would do half of it and then hop down, just enough to kind of warm my hands back up, and same thing on balance beam. I rarely do my full dismount, or I would always do a mount, though, because I had a difficult mount, and it was pretty critical for me to make sure everything was ready to go, the board was in the right place and everything.
Could a good or bad warm-up psych you up or out?
Oh, certainly. It shouldn't. You know, really, you got to go back to your practice. And the words that I often used in my own head was just do it just like practice. Because, I mean, you practice 99% of your career and you compete 1%. And so if you're practicing well, that's what you want to perform. And if you can bring your game a little higher in competition, that's even better. Some gymnasts do, some gymnasts don't. I always happen to kind of bring my game in competition. It was better for me. I'll tell you one thing, though, if we hadn't had the 30-second touch, that would have been really extremely difficult, because sometimes you would have warmed up an event literally 2 hours prior to. So if all of a sudden you're having to throw a floor routine, you hadn't done a double back in 2 hours or a full in or whatever, then it might give you the heebie-jeebies. Probably more so on balance beam and bars than anything. Bars, you just kind of want to get up there and get your rhythm, your swing going again. I think a key on balance beam for a lot of gymnasts is, you know, these other 3 events are aggression and power and swing and energy. And on balance beam, you have to go aggressively, but yet you have to be in a sense of calm mentally. And one thing that I would do a lot is I would sit down before my beam routine and try to lower my heart rate. Just to kind of get back to my normal mode of operation.
Hayden Ward, the junior out of Norman, Oklahoma, will be first up leadoff performer for the Sooners on bars. And she, of course, is coming back from a severe leg injury, which resulted in a torn ACL last year, right at the championship point of the season.
Well, it's nice to see her in the lineup, and because they had Keeley out, she kind of stepped right in place, and she has done an outstanding job for the Sooners. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Starting off with a nice big stick. I call it the so there stick. So there. You know, KJ has been really focusing on the landings. I mean, you don't want to psych the gymnast out, but you just can't say it enough. You got to stick, period. You got to stick. And she did.
And at the championship level, it comes down to the minor details, how close they are to every handstand, how critical their leg form is, and of course the all-important stuck landing. We'll see how the scores are relative to Stanford, because I felt that the Stanford scores were a little tight. Now, if they're consistently tight across the board for all teams, then that is just maybe the judges getting a little more, let's say, detail-oriented as we get ready for this championship part of the season.
I don't know if you're watching some of the other screens, you'll see that Shannon Morgan just finished on balance beam and hit a beautiful routine. I'm telling you what, Stanford is really lightening it up today. They're bringing their A game, and you're seeing some good, beautiful routines. And she just stuck a nice dismount. And she, again, is a veteran. She was the go-to girl to start them off.
Now Haley Skaman, the freshman out of Riverside, Illinois, will be the second performer up for the Sooners on bars.
Haley's got some just exciting, aspects to her gymnastics. She's kind of known for vault and floor, but she also has a beautiful bar routine. And power, power, power. Wow, awesome! Yay, that's so great. This is going to help, like you said, Bart, to give a good idea on the comparing Stanford and Oklahoma, because they're both sticking their dismounts, they're both rocking routines. What a beautiful dismount.
Score, by the way, for Hayden Ward in the first performance for the Sooners was a 9.8. Keep in mind, there are 4 events going simultaneously. Penn State's on the vault. Ashley Morgan from Stanford is getting ready to go on the beam.
Haley's highest score this year on bars has been a 9.9, and so it'll be interesting to see. She hit that one handstand, but I don't want to say, it was almost like she almost went over, so she was going for it. I mean, that's exactly what you want your gymnast to do, is to go for it, but she was kind of cutting it close.
On the floor for Southern Utah now, Anna Jaworski. Lindsay Musgrove hits a nice vault for Penn State.
This next girl up for the Sooners, Rebecca Clark, is really just come through this year for the Sooners on the bars. She is just your 9.9 girl, and she's impressive. She has a newfound confidence. Just really great to watch.
And she's also coming back from a dislocated knee injury from last year on the bars.
That skill right there is kind of her trademark. Good girl. She fought for that landing.
Score for Haley Skaman, by the way, was a 9.85. So the 2 scores for the Sooners are 9.8 and 9.85.
Sounds to me so far, Bart, the scores are comparable. And like you said, that's what we want. It is difficult in our sport sometimes to understand the judge's perspective with it is subjective. It's kind of what they think, just what their opinion is. It's not like basketball. You put a ball in a basket and you get 2 points or 3 points. Our sport is different, and it's the good and the bad about it sometimes.
No kidding. Erica Brewer will be the next Sooner to go.
Erica is just a bottle of energy. That's what I like to call her. I watched her practice, and she is get in, get it done, be efficient, be great, and go home.
He's ranked 13th in the country on the uneven bars. You're right. The coaching staff says that she'll outwork everybody in the gym. That's just how she is, and that's how she functions.
Right. She's what I call the wow factor for the Sooners, because she's just got spunk. Especially every event. I want to say, well, wait till you see her beam routine. Well, wait till you see her. It really is on so many events. KJ Killer's done a great job at recruiting a variety of type of gymnasts.
And at the core of the Sooners this year are 4 spectacular all-around performers, not all 4 competing today, just 3 of them. The Brewers ranked 21st in the country in the all-around.
Right, look at her.
A great year.
She's right on.
Score for Rebecca Clark was a 9.9.
Wow. step on the dismount, but other than that, it was just a lovely, perfect routine. What I liked about it, she was really going for every handstand. You know, they're not holding back. And you can't. If you want to win, you can't hold back. Pretty.
There's Lou Ball giving her a high 10. Lou Ball is the husband of KJ Kindler. They were the coaches at Iowa State University until a few years ago when, about 8 seasons ago, when Joe Castiglione was quite impressed with the work she had done at Iowa State and thought, I wonder what she and Lou could do down here at OU, and they've done a spectacular job. Record 21-1 this year. Their only loss was the final season meet to Alabama, but they won the Big 12 championships a couple of weeks ago. By the way, that's Sharia Musser for Penn State on the vault. One of our all-around contenders.
Also a beautiful, beautiful vault. And if you look over on the balance team, you're seeing the great gymnastics still from Ivana Hong, who's a world champion.
Whitney Jensen for Southern Utah on floor.
Gorgeous, gorgeous work by all 4. Which screen am I going to watch?
That Rebecca Clark's 9.9 I mentioned earlier ties a career high.
There's Bree finishing up with her dismount.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
You know, I see her do it often, but that layout full out is just really something special. There's only a handful of gymnasts in college who can do it.
Right.
That's Olympic level dismount,
It really is. And the coaching staff, you know, they just praise Bree because she's willing to change her bar routine up. And that's what they did. From last year to this year, they said, look, we're going to make you more unique. We're going to do a delta on the inside, and we're going to do your dismount. You know, it's fun to watch that variety, and that's what the coaching staff is able to do. They take the talent, and they take it to a higher level.
Score, by the way, for Erica Brewer was a 9.875. So the scores for the Sooners on bars as we get ready to see Taylor Spears prep for her routine. Aiden Ward had a 9.8, Haley Skeeman a 9.85, Rebecca Clark a 9.9, Erica Brewer a 9.875. We do not yet know the score of Bree Olson, but we expect a big score there, and Taylor Spears will be their anchor performer.
You know, Barton, over on the balance beam, the number 4 gymnast in the country is performing. And so sometimes it is just so hard. You're wanting to watch the uneven bars, but you also want to go over and watch the balance beam. And sometimes it's just difficult when you got such great gymnastics going on.
Taylor Spears, a junior out of Plano, Texas.
Taylor's just had an outstanding season, as we mentioned early on. She is number 6 in the all-around. She just nailed that. She's just their steady Eddie, but just gorgeous and beautiful to watch. Look at that.
Oh, stuck it. What a way to cap off a good rotation for the Sooners on bars. By the way, the score for Bree Olson was a 9.875.
Holy moly, this is fantastic. This is exactly, that is clockwork, exactly what the judges want to see. Awesome, awesome. It's paying off those landing drills.
You can see why she's ranked 13th in the country on the uneven bars and 6th in the all-around. In the next rotation, we'll see her on the balance beam, where she's ranked number 1 in the country.
She's
Taylor
got some
Spears,
competition
so clean.
here with Amanda Spinner over on the balance beam in the top left of your screen. Switch lead right into a gainer layout.
There's Spinner.
Talking to her coach, and I said, well, what makes her so great? And she said she's great to practice too, not just in a meet. She is that beam queen. She's really good.
The junior out of Danville, California, did her club gymnastics training at Bay Aerials Gymnastics. Scores for Stanford on the beam have been very impressive. Ivana Hong had a 9.9, Ashley Morgan a 9.8, Shona Morgan a 9.875.
Wow. So Sooners still got some competition, don't they? It's not going to be easy.
Sammy King now from Illinois State. Mounting the bars as we look back to the balance beam. We wait for the scores there. Taylor Spears, by the way, had a 9-9.
That was a lovely bar routine. Oh, they're practicing some little drill. I don't know if it's a ritual, or I don't know if it's a technique for, you know, a training drill. So, whatever works.
Exactly.
The next gymnast up for Stanford is Taylor Rice. She is, what's so unique about Taylor is that her parents are both alumnus and were gymnasts here at the University of Oklahoma, Cassie Fry Rice and Mike Rice.
Both of them excelled here, and
both All-Americans. Yeah, and she's got talent in her blood.
they have a gymnastics school out in Las Vegas, and so their children have all been exposed to gymnastics at a very high level. I remember the day when Cassie posted on Facebook that her daughter Taylor got a scholarship offer to Stanford University. That's quite a moment for any family.
Right. Yeah, I spoke with Cassie a couple days ago. She said, just give her a big old hug from me, okay? And Cassie was my college teammate and roommate. And it's just such a pleasure to... Oh, goodness. But it's been a pleasure to watch her. It's just unlike her. It really is. You're not this late in the beam lineup if you're inconsistent, and so that's really just a surprise.
Prior to that, they've had good scores there. The lowest score is a 9-8. All the scores rank between 9-8 and 9-9. That's just unlucky.
It really is. You know, if you look super close, you can see that her back leg was turned out, her hip was turned out, and it just, you know, that just shows you how difficult balance beam is. Only 4 inches wide, so if you're just a slight bit off, especially in competition, sometimes you panic even. You know, you think, oh no, I'm not off, and next thing you know, you're on the floor. Here's a look at her dismount. Nice and clean. You can tell she's a little, rats. She'll bounce back. She's going to be competing on floor in just a little bit, but I know she'll bounce back. She's just that girl.
Christina Vasulik will be up now for Stanford. She is their anchor performer on beam, the Olympian, competed in London this past summer. I met her a few years ago when she came to compete in the Nadia Comaneci International Invitational. Very impressed with her elite level quality of technique and execution.
You know, you can really see that when you're watching. That's what's so fun about coming to these competitions is you're seeing these outstanding gymnasts, and their technique is just impeccable. Whether they've got some of it from their college coaches, a lot of it, and we just can't discount the club coaches who have brought them so far and have taught them those techniques since they were 4 or 5 years old. Big shout out to the club coaches. Beautiful. This textbook switch leap. Those young gymnasts out there watching, that was a perfect switch leap. Wow. Full twisting back handspring swing down. That's a skill you don't want to miss, Clark.
You mentioned her club coach. Her club coach is Elena Davidova, who is a 1980 Olympic all-around champion.
Wow.
Russian gymnast who moved to Canada several years ago and has coached several elite-level gymnasts from Canada. Well, she has had the best advice for her career.
Now that you say that, you can certainly see that style in her gymnastics. There is a certain style about European gymnast, and she definitely has it. It's a cleaner, more exact style. I think the Romanians honestly started that more so than any of the other European countries. They were just exact. There was no doubt what they were performing.
Taylor Rice had only a 9.25, unfortunately, so that means a little extra pressure for this final routine from Vasulik. Remember, there are 6 athletes on each team. The top 5 scores count towards the team total, and they needed this routine and this dismount from Christina Vasulik, and they got it.
Well, that's exactly what a veteran does. They rise to the occasion, and she certainly did. You can see a sense of relief on Coach Kristen Smith's face just then. She was just like, thank goodness. It's always just, I guess, it is a sense of relief after balance beam is over because it's time to go shine on the floor, exercise, just have fun and put out all your energy and
now normally that's the case, but of course here they're going to have to go on a bye. So they've done bars and beam. They'll take a bye and then they'll do floor.
I guess my question is, do you think maybe they go to the locker room and dance around and jazz up a little bit?
I asked KJ Kindler about it the other day, and I said, what will you do during those buys? And she said, we go back in the locker room. And she said, I just want the girls to sort of, you know, get out of the gym, clear their head a little bit, you know, stay fresh, not focus too much on the other team, but focus on what we're doing. And so they actually leave the floor during their buy. Some teams stay out there in the corrals.
I think that's a really good idea.
This is Kristen Edwards from Texas Women's University here on floor. She's competing as an individual in a rotation with Southern Utah, the team who has already completed their team rotation.
You know, we're very lucky we get to see TW more often than most clubs or most colleges, and they just have an outstanding program. It is really fun to visit with the girls and to watch their quality of gymnastics. Isn't that pretty? Oh. Looks like she's happy with that.
And the good thing now is after this rotation, every team has done at least 2 events. So it will be the first time we'll be able to compare apples to apples in terms of scores. On the beam, Taryn Vanderpool from Southeast Missouri, competing once again as an individual.
She is a nice, clean gymnast to watch. So we're getting ready for a dismount. Nice round up, 4.5 dismount. Again, it's a blind landing, so it's a little bit harder to stick for some. Here's another view. It's nice and straight. A lot of times on those dismounts, you kind of end up a little off to the side, but she was nice and straight. She is having a great meet so far.
All right, that wraps up rotation number 3. When we come back to Norman, Oklahoma, we'll update you on the standings at the halfway point in this NCAA Regional Gymnastics competition. Don't go away.
Now my head's in the clouds. They can't bring me down. Got a smile on my face. Can they see me now? See me now.
Well, we've talked the last 2 weeks about you're good enough right now. What you're doing as a team, what you're doing as an individual is good enough for us to make it to the national championship. You don't have to try to make things bigger or higher or farther or better than what you normally do. By doing that, you're going to change what you do every day, and we don't want them to change. We want them to go out there and just do what we do every day in practice. Sometimes that's hard, you know, with the adrenaline, the excitement. You get anxious, but they've worked on that all season. So really the biggest message to our team is just going to be go out there and just have fun.
And that is Jeff Thompson. He and his wife, Rochelle, are the coaches at Penn State University, top 20 nationally ranked in every individual event. They're led by those 2 first-team all Big Ten seniors, Madison Marion and Sharia Musser. 7 competitors here, which is about half their team. In fact, a little more than half their team with no NCAA experience at all. 5 academic all Big Ten selections for the Nittany Lions. So proud to have the Penn State Nittany Lions here in Norman, Oklahoma for today's regional. You know, you get selected randomly after the regional qualifying scores are done. They shuffle it up and they basically seed teams to this regional qualifying competitions, and there's 6 of them going on simultaneously today all around the country. And at the end of tonight, we will know which teams make the NCAA championships. As I mentioned earlier, and we talked about this, Kelly, is that 2 teams will advance from this competition. Oklahoma is a heavy favorite, being the #2 team in the country, and at home they feel comfortable. They're doing well. They have the lead right now of just a little bit less than a half a point over the Penn State Nittany Lions, who are in second, the Stanford Cardinal in third. Let's take a look at the standings, because this is the first time we can see after 3 events that every team has competed actually twice. So here are the scores. The Iowa Hawkeyes have a 96.525. The Southern Utah Thunderbirds have a 97.05. The Sooners have a 98.775. They are the leaders. Stanford Cardinal a 97.625. Actually, that score is wrong. They have a 98.2. The Huskies from Washington have a 97.75, and the Nittany Lions a 98.25. So once again, the Sooners lead with a 98.775. The Nittany Lions a 98.25, and just 5/100ths behind Penn State is Stanford with a 98.2. So as expected, the top 3 teams, Oklahoma, Penn State, and Stanford, all at the top of the field there, and all separated by about a half a point as the Oklahoma Sooners move to the perilous balance beam. So let's say take a look at where the teams move now. Southern Utah is on the vault. Penn State is on the bye before bars. Washington is on bars. Oklahoma on the beam, which is an event where they're ranked #1 in the country. Stanford is on a bye before floor, and Iowa will be on the floor. So in this rotation, in our large screen format, we will be covering the Oklahoma Sooners primarily on the beam, but you will see the other teams in those rotations, as I mentioned, in the other 3 boxes. So KJ Kindler, who is a specialist on the beam, she takes a lot of pride in the team's quality of performance, their execution, and their clean lines, as well as their consistency. She was a little bit rattled at the Big 12 championships because the Sooners counted a fall on beam for the first time in 2 years, and that shook her up a little bit, didn't it?
Right. Well, it certainly should, because she is that coach who demands a lot from her gymnast, and I bet you she put in a lot of beam routines next week, because that was not going to happen again. So, but you know, she's a great coach. And I talked to her about the way that they train. They don't do like really high numbers like some of the club coaches do. But, you know, she makes them kind of in a pressure situation.
Madison Mooring will be the first performer up for the Sooners. That critical performance on the beam is the leadoff performer, because if that leadoff performer is nervous and shaky, it can literally filter down to the rest of the team. So this is a routine that is very intense for the Sooners right now.
Right. Madison has led off all season long, and says she really, I think she feels comfortable in that position. And that's usually not a spot you're going to want to switch up your gymnast and to say, oh, by the way, you're starting beam this week. So Madison is comfortable. She's confident. And like you said, Bart, that's what you need to make the rest of the team feel confident, ready to go.
I thought it was interesting that KJ Kindler told us sometimes when she puts her later in the lineup, she may modify her routine depending on how the other athletes have gone, and they might take out a layout, more difficult skill, if the team has been a little bit shaky. But she has been very consistent and confident so far in this routine.
She's right on. What a beautiful start-off routine.
And you can see KJ Kindler not only pumping her fist, but there was a look of relief as well, wasn't it?
I breathed out for some reason, like, whew.
The Sooners ranked #1 in the country on this event. As I mentioned, 21-1 this year. The only loss was in the season finale at an away meet to the Crimson Tide of Alabama.
This next gymnast coming up, I'll tell you something about her. There's a couple of girls on the OU team that if I could say they could score a 10, she is one of them. The first time I saw her on the balance beam, I was just in awe. Her name is, this is sophomore Lauren Alexander.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, she had really early success this beginning of the season, but then she fell in a couple of meets. And so KJ was like, look, you either got to dig deep or you got to, you're getting replaced. And she did. She dug deep and she came back and scored and won and is Big 12 runner-up beam champ. So
It was interesting that last year she left the team.
Right.
In December, and she just thought she was done with gymnastics. She was even coaching at the Mark Connor Gymnastics Academy. And one day, KJ Kindler was in there to pick up her kids who were taking a preschool gymnastic class, and she said, hey, if you ever think about coming back to the team, we'd love to have you back. Well, she walked onto the team, and now she's ranked #11 in the country on the beam. This is sophomore Lauren Alexander.
Is that something like needing to find yourself, maybe?
I guess that happens at college,
It does happen at college.
Leadoff scorer Madison Mooring had a 9.85. Great start for the Sooners.
What I like about her gymnastics is she has poise and just grace. I mean, she also throws in the elements that are required, these difficult moves, just like that one. But, she knows she's good. And you can see it all over her gymnastics. I really like how KJ has choreographed these routines to enhance each of the gymnasts. Lauren is extremely flexible. You can see that in the moves that she does, just like that tick-tock. And most gymnasts would be like, you're not going to put a tick-tock in my beam routine. And it's as simple. It's not even of much value, but she's so pretty to watch. And it just enhances, like, look at my flexibility. Look how great I am.
Alexander had 2 torn ACLs in high school.
It was so great.
Now, she didn't do one of the more challenging dismounts. She did a gainer pike off the end, but it is enough difficulty combined with the rest of her routine that it still has a 10-0 start value.
You're right. There are some gymnasts that do the risky moves that have the same value. And that may be one reason, honestly, why she hasn't scored a 10 this year. She has this great routine going. She does her dismount, and they think, well, had she did a little harder dismount and stuck it, I might have thrown out that 10 for her. So we'll see what happens.
After 2 torn ACLs, I can't blame her for going for a little bit easier dismount.
Good point there.
When you get to the national championships, though, there are some of the top teams that are doing dismounts like that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it will be a differentiator when you get down to the final teams, because the judges have a element in their scoring called distribution, and they're allowed to take off a 1/10 of a point if the distribution of the difficulty throughout the exercise is not the same. So if you do a really difficult routine and an easy dismount, the distribution deduction can be in play, and it only really comes in play at the high-level championship meets when there's so many good teams and they're looking for ways to differentiate a good team from a great team.
That is a very valid point, and it certainly helps, I think, the audience understand where and why some of these scores, because I can assure you the moms of the world that are out there watching their daughters and dads, they don't understand that.
So they give them all 10s. See, that's what you're supposed to do. It's your kid.
That's
give her
right.
10.
Wow. It's called unconditional love.
Now up for the Sooners. Rebecca Clark. Madison Mooring, as I mentioned, had a 9.85. That's the same score that Lauren Alexander got.
Rebecca has also found new confidence on the balance beam. She had to fill in a couple of times, and so she's posted some 9.9s and is the Big 12 co-champion. You can see right there she repeated her front aerial because that is one of her bonus combinations. She is smart enough and to know that if she did not go back and repeat it, that her start value would not be high enough to maximize her score. some gymnasts kind of just move forward and think, oops, I messed up, and just keep going. But she does realize that she's thinking, not just doing her body, her skills, but she's also thinking, what do I need to do to make this routine have the highest value?
Did you change your routine a lot during competition?
Not usually. Sometimes, let me say this, not usually on balance beam. Sometimes you cover up skills, I'll tell you, one time I did forget my beam routine. So I started making it up.
I hope you got a good score.
I did. Okay, you can see that the training for the dismount is working. They're really sitting lower, trying to lower their center of gravity so their body doesn't move on the landings. They need to keep that up for at least another 2.5 weeks. Nice routine, Rebecca, especially covering up after the front aerial.
Keely Kamichek will be the next performer for the Sooners on beam.
This is a very important routine for her because, having been out, getting back, she needed this meet to be on the balance beam. Even if she's not 100% physically ready, which I'm pretty assured that she is, she needed mentally to be on the balance beam in this meet because in 2 weeks she'll be at the national championship on this event. You just don't want to be off beam for that long and out of competition of beam for that long because it'll start playing head games with you.
KJ Kindler says she is extremely competitive and she holds herself to a very high standard. So she said she's a really huge asset in the gym because she sets that kind of standard for the entire team.
Well, I know that they did a lot of called mental routines when she was off, and which are basically, for you young gymnasts out there, or I'm sure your coaches have started this with you, and it's you think of your routine in your head, even though you're not performing it, and it's to help you just feel confident even if you're not in the gym. So if you're injured sometime, don't give up. Stay in there and stay in the game mentally, and then you'll come back so much faster.
Score for Rebecca Clark after that little bobble was a 9-7, but the scores for the Sooners are 9-7 and 2-9-8-5 so far.
Here she's gearing up for her dismount. She has a round of double back dismount.
Ooh!
All that is just 2 weeks out of the gym.
That's right, a little lack of training,
and
right?
she'll be fine. So I'm glad. I think it's important that she threw it to say, yes, I can do it. You can see KJ was pleased. Just get it on, and move on. Just go back to practice.
After coming back from that tonsillectomy and not having the level of training, you could see probably she just ran out of gas a little bit.
That's exactly
right.
Her
legs were weak at the end of that dismount, but I'm convinced that between now and the NCAA championships, should the Sooners advance from here, that she'll be as fit as she needs to be.
I think she'll be just fine. She needed a confidence boost, and that's what she got.
Erica Brewer.
I'll be interested to see if Erica throws her higher flight series. She normally does a back handspring layout. KJ is not one to hold back, so my guess is she'll be performing it, so we will watch for that when she starts her routine.
She's ranked 11th in the country on this event. 21st in the country in the all-around. Score for Keely Kamichek, a 9.725. So the Sooners have had good scores there, not exceptional scores. So Brewer and Spears, if they could nail some big scores here, would be really important for the Sooners in this critical rotation on the beam.
And you know what? They're fully capable of doing that. They wouldn't be 5th and 6th up in the lineup if they weren't. Here's the back handspring layout. Oh, I'm glad I mentioned it because she did. She decided to go conservative and do just the back handspring layout, and I don't really blame her. You know, as we go through each rotation and we see that the scores are a little bit tight, it also makes you think, well, okay, that team score at the end is not going to be the 198, you know, that they're looking for, the hot or the mid 198. And so it's kind of preparing us to look at a 197 for their team score.
Nice double back dismount for Brewer. And the Sooners have 5 complete routines done on the beam, which is good. They have a half-a-point lead. Keep in mind, a fall off the beam is a half-a-point deduction. So literally, they have a lead. They don't have a lot of room for error, but they do now have 5 routines, all that will count as significant scores. But one fall is a half-a-point, and that's all the lead is right now. The Sooners can't afford to have a fall. But at least they got 5 solid routines.
That's right.
So now they can go for the moon with Taylor Spears.
Well, and it really takes the pressure off Taylor so she can just let her natural talent and ability come through. That is such, I loved competing under that scenario, you know, because you're just like, oh,
they already have
a
good team score. Exactly right.
And of all people, I mean, the judges just love to watch her, and the audience too, because she has what I call poise with confidence.
Take a look at the stats here. Nation's #1 beam performer, 9.945 average for Taylor Spears. Her career high 9.975 against UCLA, which was a career night here for the Sooners at home. And then OU has 4 competitors in the top 25 of the national beam rankings. Erica Brewer had a 9.85, so the Sooners scores all run between 9.7 and 9.85. Big opportunity for a huge score here for the #1 gymnast in the country on beam. As you can see down at the end of the beam, KJ Kindler looking on.
That skill right there isn't a no-do. It is a beautiful skill right into combination. I mean, it's one thing just to do it, and then for her to do it right in combination is kind of over the top. Switch leap right into a cat leap.
I think it's interesting that KJ is down the sight line at the end of the beam. A lot of coaches like to do that, and I think a lot of the gymnasts like the fact that the coach is there. There's a certain comfort level that they can focus and probably draw off a little of the enthusiasm from the coach. Did you like a coach to stand at the end of the beam?
You know what? I did. I did. I didn't really focus on it, though. I mean, it was all beam.
You knew she was there,
it was the beam and me, you know. So, but I did. I think it's a comfort of just feeling like you're not the only one out there. You know, we are an individual sport. Beautiful routine.
Wow, lovely execution. Could be a big score there for Oklahoma. They had 6 solid hit routines, only 1 little bobble. But the Sooners, with a half-a-point lead, have now nailed beam, which is the make-or-break event in women's collegiate gymnastics.
Here's another look at her dismount. Again, her full right off the side. Again, not, I guess, you might throw this dismount in with the same category as the gainer off the front.
Right.
But you see a lot more gymnasts doing this dismount right off the side. And, you know, sticking a round double back is just simply a lot harder than sticking a gainer full off the side. And so that's why they choose to do that. And that's one reason that she's averaging the 9.945 and not a 9.925. You just kind of got to pick which one you're going for. I was always the go hard, do it, the riskiest skill you could think of, and you know, and train it so you can be consistent. But it wasn't always the easiest route.
Once again, our 4-ring circus is down to a 2-ring circus. The other 2 events are completed. Vault and bars go much quicker because the routines are very short compared to beam and floor. So the final 2 performers in this rotation include Sammy King from Illinois State on the beam and Chantel Turk from Illinois Chicago on the floor.
It was a creative mount. Kind of the I call it a fish flop down your belly, down.
Fish flop doesn't sound terribly artistic.
I know it doesn't, but I think most of the people out there understand that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
That was beautiful. A ring jump. When a gymnast throws her head backwards, up in the air, away from the beam, to re-find it and focus on it, it's difficult.
Really, some of those leaps are more difficult and scarier than an aerial skill where you flip over, aren't they?
Right, and what most people don't realize is when you're tumbling backwards on the balance beam, you actually see the beam before you land on it. It might be a millisecond, but you do see it. So you can actually watch your foot land. You can also watch your foot not land. However, when you're doing, the jumps, like you mentioned, Bart, if you miss, you're on the floor before you realize it.
Well, that was nice. A gainer full off the end.
Right.
I like that.
That was a step up.
She's having a great day.
I know she is.
And benefiting from rotating with the Sooners, who are showing her plenty of love. So good job for Sammy King from Illinois State.
Pretty. That was technically perfect. I mean, you could just totally see that. Up, twist, stick.
And it's so great when you see a young gymnast is having a great day, as Chantel Chirk from the University of Illinois Chicago finishes off her floor routine. So that will wrap up the 4th of 6 rotations here at the 2013 NCAA Regional Gymnastics Competition. Don't go away, folks. The Sooners will move to a bye before they will go to the floor, and we'll update you on the scores when we come back.
Now my head's in the clouds. They can't bring me down, Got a smile on my face. Can they see me now? See me now.
You know what? Just working together as a team and as a group, and how they've come together as a team and a group. A lot of teams can handle these situations in very different ways, with a lot of drama and a lot of just crap that you don't need to have. And this team didn't do it. They never did it. They stuck together, they hung in there, and they've been amazing. That's our raw moment, is just what we've done as a family. I mean, that team is a family. They're very tight, and, we're going to come out of there as a family.
Let's take a look at some of the stats surrounding the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Their season best, 196.2 this year, is a very respectable score, and they beat Iowa. This is their 5th time in the last 6 years that they made the NCAA regionals. 6 freshmen, 5 sophomores, and only 3 seniors. So once again, we talk about the strength of their underclass team. Most of their team are underclassmen. And Kelly, you found out an interesting fact about them. Their academic excellence is renowned.
Right. It's interesting that they have finished in the top 3. Well, first off, they finished academically. They were the national champions, and they won it 12 times. But they've never finished 3rd in the last 22 years that Coach Scott Bowman has been there. And so, they're already national champions, Bart.
Yeah.
But it's academically. And so I was talking to him, and he said, these kids are going to be lawyers and doctors, and he said, if I get hurt, I know exactly who to call. So.
Yeah, it's great. You can never underestimate the quality of the students that we're seeing here as well, because these young ladies are not only exceptional athletes, but it's not uncommon that the gymnastics teams on campus are among the most accomplished in the classroom as well.
You're
and I know they're
exactly
quite proud of that. These are very dedicated young ladies who have learned at a very early age to manage their time very well, because if they've been focused on training gymnastics since they're 3, 4, 5 years old, they have to be very efficient with their time, their homework time, their social time, and I think that pays off by the time they go to college, because they're high-level athletes, but they're also exceptional in the classroom.
Well, it's teaching life skills that you hardly can't teach unless you're in another sport or another activity where you have to learn to balance your time.
Southern Utah ranked 34th in the country. Their best event was the uneven bars. Let's take a look at this next rotation. We're ready for the 5th of 6 rotations. Iowa will be on the vault. Southern Utah is on a bye before bars. Penn State will be on the bars, and we'll be focusing on them in this rotation. Washington moves to the beam. Oklahoma is on a bye, which means they're back in the locker room as they get ready for floor, which will be their final event. Stanford will be on floor. Keep in mind that there will be some teams in this rotation that will be finished with the meet because they will have completed their competition, all 4 rotations.
Well, just like we expected, Stanford and Penn State are really neck and neck, and this last rotation is going to be just critical to watch them and to see who can really pull it out. The coaches have talked about every week preparing for this competition. They would practice pressure situations, and they would visualize the arena. And, you know, that's one benefit Stanford had, having competed here earlier.
Stanford and Penn State separated by 5/100ths of a point. Oklahoma about a half a point ahead of both of those two teams. And so if this meet plays out as expected, Oklahoma's moving to the floor where it's hard to fall off the floor.
Right.
They
Don't say that.
will likely win this competition, but the battle will be for second place.
That's right.
Between Penn State and Stanford, because one of those two teams will get a ticket to LA for the national championships and the other will stay home. So we'll pay close attention to that, especially in this rotation, because Penn State will be on the bars and Stanford will be on the floor, and they'll be going simultaneously. That's why I'm glad that we'll be able to see all the action the way they're covering it today on Sooner Sports Television. Finishing up the last rotations in warm-up. Stanford has opened up on the floor with their first performer, and Penn State setting the bars for their leadoff performer. Washington's on the beam. Iowa on the ball. First performer for Penn State will be Cassidy Stauder.
Cassidy competes on 3 events for Penn State, and so she will be a key player for them in their final part of trying to make the national championship.
She's a junior out of Almerton, Pennsylvania.
You know, one thing Coach Thompson said, they started off the season with a little bit more difficulty, but found that the team was inconsistent, so they had to change the routines to something a little bit easier just so they could be consistent and be prepared to be able to compete against the best of the best.
In terms of rankings, this is the event where Penn State is ranked the highest nationally. They're ranked 13th here.
Well, you can see why after that routine and that lovely dismount. There's a look again at her going into her double layout. You see a lot of double layout dismounts in the competition, and it's fun to watch the different techniques and the way that they complete both rotations of the flip. And of course, you know, coming into the landing, being able to stick that dismount. Keep in mind, they can spot the mat before they hit it, but sometimes they might have already generated too much power when they have let go of the bar and tapped coming off of the bar, going into the dismount.
Krista Welch will be the second gymnast up for the Nittany Lions. Penn State finished 6th in the Big Ten Championships. Of course, that is a very competitive conference, no question about it, but they had hoped to finish higher at the most recent conference championships.
Here she's starting her bar routine. Nice cast handstand. Again, they're looking for hitting handstands, the diversity of the skills, the release moves. being nice and high above the bar. You see just a little bit of form. We want a perfect line from toe to hand. But it was a nice, clean routine. She took probably a good hop on the dismount, actually. So at this point in their competition, every landing is very important.
Keep in mind, Stanford's on the floor. This is a team that they are in a head-to-head battle with. Taylor Rice doing a nice routine over there for the Cardinal. Stanford's first score on floor was a 9-7. Penn State's first score on bars was a 9-7-7-5. That's how close it is.
Watching Taylor on floor, having seen her earlier in the season, she's really improved throughout the season. She has a lot more energy going into her tumbling passes, performing. She just looks great.
Iowa has done well on vault so far, 9.75 and 9.725 for Allie Glover and Adara Griffin. The first performer for Washington on beam was terrific, Eliza Vatcher, 9.825. Samantha Musto now, Penn State. She's a freshman.
Nice reverse hack over the bar. One thing I've noticed is that each of these girls so far have started out kind of in the same place on her bar routine. Same direction, same kind of mount. It's a nice routine. Again, a double layout dismount.
She has scored a 9.9 earlier this year on the 16th of February.
You can see nice body line. Step on the dismount, but other than that, great job.
Score for her teammate, Crystal Welsh, was a 9.775. So once again, let's compare Penn State and Stanford because those are the two teams going head-to-head. Both scores for Stanford on the bars are 9.775s. Stanford has a 9.7 and a 9.875 for Taylor Rice.
So you have your veteran on the floor with Shona Morgan starting out. Nice clean routine. Watching her while they're getting ready for the uneven bars to start.
Sydney Sanabria Robles will be the next performer for Penn State on the bars. She is an all-around junior out of Puerto Rico. Doing well on beam. Lauren Rogers performing now. Their scores over there are 9.825 and 9.8.
Great job.
Iowa had a big 9.9 on vault for Kira Trowbridge.
Very nice release mid, nice and high. Overshoots straight up to the handstand. Circles around the bar, gets up to the handstand for dismount. Nice power giants right into a beautiful double layout. That's more what we're expecting to see from Penn State.
Those landings will be critical today in a battle that's this close, separated by 5/100ths of a point right now. Stanford and Penn State.
Well, Bart, you can see her whole routine was better. There was more amplitude, there was more height, there was better handstands, there was more energy, and the technique and the body position in the double layout was right, it was right on. So I expect that score to definitely go up.
The third score for Penn State on the bars was a 9.775. So all three scores, 9.775 for the Nittany Lions there.
You know, competing sometimes in gymnastics, you really focus on your own performance. You know, here we're really focusing on one team against the other team. But as the gymnast on the floor, you don't ever look over and say, I'm going to beat you, or look to the other gymnast, or I'm going to beat your team. So, but all these girls are so kind to each other, warm, and the caring, because they all understand how wonderful the sport is, yet how strenuous it can be at times. They have a general respect for one another.
Madison Merriam now, one of the two all-around leaders and anchor performers for Penn State.
Very unique move. Ivana over the high bar. You usually see that. Oh, no. You usually see that on men's gymnastics. She just took a fall, and unfortunately she could. Normally you train to cover up when you make a mistake. I mean, I kind of thought she was maybe going for a 1.5 pirouette. Here, we're going to watch it again, see what happened exactly. She normally gets a blind fall right into her dismount. So that is exactly why she didn't know kind of what to do.
Score for her teammate, by the way, Sydney Sanabria Robles, was a 9.85. So this will hurt them because they were hoping for the two big scores from their two stars at the end of the lineup. With Merriam and Musser.
You know, she has scored a 9.95 earlier in the season, so she is fully capable. It's you know, it's a disappointment that that she didn't have her best routine, because you want to compete your best against the best.
On floor for Stanford right now is former national team member Ivana Hong, Olympic alternate. Their scores for Stanford over there are 9.7, 9.875, and Shona Morgan had a 9.825. So enormous pressure on Sharia Mustard now. It's not like she hasn't been in this position before, but Penn State needs a great routine out of her here.
Well, when you're in this position, sometimes you don't know whether to hold back and be conservative and hit your routine, or go all out, go for every handstand to try to make up that, you know, the tenths that they really need in order to beat some of these other teams. And so it'll be interesting to see what mode she takes.
Ashley Morgan over there for Stanford on floor, getting a few last-minute reminders from Tabitha Yin. Morgan, of course, the daughter of baseball legend Joe Morgan, and one of the standouts, especially on floor for Stanford.
Well, here Musser starts her routine.
9.175 is the score for Madison Merriam. That will be the score they will likely drop, assuming that Musser can hit. She's the number 9 ranked all-around performer in the country.
Well, so far so good. She is just hitting her routine, just like clockwork, exactly what is needed for this team. Double layout and stuck landing. Thank you so much, her coach is saying, and her teammates.
Crucial performance for the Nittany Lions there on bars.
She pulled it through. Congratulations, good job.
Wow, she was close to the bar in that double layout.
I noticed that earlier, but I just thought.
The coach didn't panic, so it must be that way every day in the gym.
That's a good point.
So Penn State did get the 5 needed quality scores there. Ivana Hong for Stanford had a low 9.475.
Oh.
Didn't see what happened there. So we were focused on Penn State on the bars.
Well, that must be why Ashley's doing such a great job right now on the floor exercise. Ashley Morgan's performing. You can see in the bottom left screen. The other two gymnasts are getting ready to compete. Ending with a super high double bag dismount.
On the main screen there, you're seeing Catherine Dion from University of Illinois Chicago getting ready to the bars. We'll put Stanford in the main screen because this is the battle that we want to focus on now between Stanford and Penn State. You can still see Catherine Dion in your lower left screen. That's the advantage of being able to see all 4 events simultaneously. We'll stay with Stanford on the floor because this is critical. Score for Sharia Musser, a 9.825. So the low score of Madison Miriam will be dropped.
Right there, you're looking at Samantha Shapiro. She is just a great veteran for this team, and she's a standout on the uneven bars, but she's also great on the floor exercise. 3 times she won the USA Junior National Championships.
I remember watching her progress through the junior ranks and become an international elite, compete for the U.S. national team membership when she was out in Los Angeles. Her coach, Galina Marinova, is one of the legendary gymnasts from Bulgaria who moved to the United States and has a top-notch program in the Southern California area.
You can see the style of her gymnastics is just beautiful. Already you see that in her dance and in her tumbling. I just love watching great gymnastics. And that's what we're seeing all over the floor today. Awesome, double pike. You can see she's showing off her flexibility. Just interesting music. I really enjoyed it. It's a combination of something that's a little crisper, but it's also got some classical thrown in, which is great because she has that classical style.
Not everybody can pull off that classical style, right?
That's right. You know, sometimes they have some, you know, just crowd-pleasing music. It's just hip-hop, you know, dance and makes you want to get up and move. This comes all back to her training when she was a youngster. Like we said earlier, those coaches, those club coaches that get these young ladies ready to compete in college, they have a big part of their gymnastics career. And then sometimes the college coaches get the glory for it, but you know, it's a group effort, and family included.
We're wrapping up this rotation. University of Washington has finished up on beam. Their scores are all respectable. They're quite good. Between a 9.7 is the low score, which will be dropped up to 2 9.825s. Paige Bixler and Aliza Vatcher getting 9.825. So a respectable score for Washington on the beam, which brings up Kim Genero now from Illinois State, competing once again as an individual.
Front aerial. You know, when you're on the balance beam, you really should be in a zone and not hear anything else going on. Sometimes, you know, I just noticed, for example, the music stopped. And it makes me wonder, does she notice that the music stopped? But you're not supposed to, and you normally don't if you're really focused on your routine.
By the way, update on the scores for Stanford on the floor. Samantha Shapiro had a 9.875. So Stanford outscored Penn State in that rotation by .175.
She is doing just a great routine. You know, sometimes those full turns are tricky. You'll do all the hard skills and all of a sudden mentally relax and think it's just a full turn. But she made it to the tiny bobble, but she's doing a great job. Here she gets ready for her dismount. Wow, a double full dismount with a perfect landing. These individuals are showing exactly why they should be here. Every individual we seem to turn to is just doing an outstanding routine.
Kelly, you mentioned that happened to you when you were competing, when Oklahoma didn't make it. You qualified to nationals as an individual, competing at the end of the lineup after a quality team, and then you went on to win the NCAA All-Around Championship, didn't you?
I did, thank you. So it's possible for those of you out there, you think, oh, I can't make it without my teammates. It is clearly possible.
And Maddie finishing up on the floor exercise.
I mentioned that to her coach, and she said, I'm going to go tell her right now. So hope that was inspiring her to understand that she can make it.
Good job for Taryn Vanderpool from Southeast Missouri State. Well, that wraps up the 5th of 6 rotations. The Sooners in charge, but you can see the fans of the Stanford Cardinal know it's close between Stanford and Penn State as to who will be the other team to make it to nationals. We'll be back when we come back to Norman, Oklahoma. We'll find out what happens next.
Got a smile on my face. Can they see me now? See me now.
This has probably been one of the easiest years in terms of practice every day. Everybody comes ready to go, works hard, cares. The things you can't, I always say you can't coach and make someone care. And I feel like it's a special group of young women because they all care very, very much, and they're all trying to do the right thing and work hard. And it's just been a really good year that way. So I feel like we're peaking at the right time, and hopefully we're going to hit our goals.
And let's take a look at some of the highlights of the year for the Washington Huskies. Their 7th straight NCAA regional appearance. Lauren Rogers, first team Pac-12 all-around. And they are especially good, ranking the top 20 nationally on both bars and beam. Good to have them here in Norman. We're getting ready now for the 6th and final rotation, and our top 3 teams will all be on the floor at the same time in this rotation. Here are the team totals. You can see here that it's a little bit confusing because Iowa and Washington have both completed the meet. But what's most important and what we expect to play out at the end is Oklahoma, Stanford, and Penn State. Stanford has 147.375. Penn State 147.25. So those two teams are separated by .125. Oklahoma on the floor, just less than 0.6 of a point in the lead over those other two teams. And you can see in this final rotation, Stanford will be on the vault. Iowa is done. Southern Utah will be on the bars. Penn State on the treacherous balance beam. The Sooners on the floor.
And make some noise for Washington.
It's a little bit difficult because not all the teams have competed the same number of events. And it is true that the leaders in the clubhouse are Washington with a 195.925 and Iowa with a 194.475. But we know enough about gymnastics to know that those scores won't hold up. They've done a nice job today, but the top teams are on the floor now and will surely surpass them. It's great to have our top 3 teams all on the floor at the same time in this final rotation. It's going to highlight, in fact, how great it is that we're able to see this 4-ring circus all at the same time.
Right.
By using the technology that we're using, a multi-camera coverage on the leading team, and all the other teams are also being seen by single camera coverage in the box. So for those of you who are supporting Stanford and Penn State, you will not miss one of their routines in this 6th and final rotation.
And the feeling in the arena is exactly what it's going to be like at the NCAA championships. It's loud, it's big, the music's going, and you know, not knowing exactly what event they're going to be competing on at nationals. And this is a good test for Penn State to be on the balance beam, and you can just feel the energy of these top 3 teams all competing at the same time. And I'll tell you what, Southern Utah has done an outstanding job looking at their score too. Like you mentioned, I don't think that they're going to, you know, be competing to move on, but they could very likely beat some of the other 2 teams that have finished. So it'll be fun to watch all 4 teams that are out on the floor right now.
Sooners on the floor. Stanford on the vault, and of course Penn State on the beam. I'd rather finish on vault than beam, wouldn't you?
Oh, I guess for most people that is the case. Even being a beamer myself, I'd probably have to say yes, because you can go all out and you can go for the stick, and if it stings your ankles, you can rest them tomorrow.
Exactly. Okay. Here are the scores in the all-around battle we've been focusing on with Spears from Oklahoma with a 29.65. You see her scores there, and Sharia Musser from Penn State, 29.525.
You know,
Close contest.
It is just amazing to look at these two top girls in the country, and they are so close, and that's really what it takes to win the national championship and to give you that title.
First up for Oklahoma on the floor will be Laura Albright, the junior out of Carrollton, Texas, competed for the World Olympic Gymnastics Academy.
Laura is steady and consistent, and I'll tell you what the centers need from Laura. They need her to start with a 9.9 every meet. It's not good enough to have the 9.8, and she's capable because she has done 9.9 several times this year. And you just don't want to take it for granted, but they need it in order to, if they're going to vie for a national championship in 2 weeks.
Cassidy Stauder for Penn State on the beam, and Ashley Morgan will be the leadoff vaulter for Stanford. Anna Jaworski for Southern Utah on the bars.
For the gymnastic fan out there, this might be a true test to figure out which screen you're going to watch, because my eyes keep floating back and forth because I really want to see them all. It's just great quality gymnastics. Here's Laura's getting ready for her last tumbling pass.
She's very clean on this event, isn't she?
She really is. She's also very bright academic All-American.
Nice start for Laura Albright for the Sooners. They have a lead of just under 0.6 of a point, and they're hoping to put an exclamation point on it here on the floor.
So look at her second pass. Well, actually, her last pass. Nice, Rudy. You know, KJ told me you might have noticed the brightness of the leotards for the Sooners. There are 2,212 rhinestones per leotard.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm
How'd you like to sew all those on?
No. Can I say no fast enough?
Wow. Taylor Rice will be the next vaulter for Stanford. We do not have the score yet for Ashley
Beautiful.
Morgan.
Nice ball. You can see she was nice and high, was able to flare out a little bit before her landing. Makes it easier to stick. Uneven bars is going well for Rochelle.
Score for Laura Albright, a leadoff 9.875. Spectacular for Oklahoma.
Okay, Erica Brewer has, the last couple of meets, had a challenge because she had added more difficulty into her last tumbling pass. Mid-season, she also added a full in. I'll be interested to see right here if she does it. No, she just chooses to do a double tuck. It's not necessary really for this competition, but she will be pulling it out for the national championships. Like you said, Bart, the gymnasts are very clean on the floor exercise. KJ Killner does an outstanding job on choreography. I was watching several of the other competitions, the SEC championships, and I was pleased to see that the center's going to be up there with all the choreography of the other teams. Might even surpass them. You know, it's the full package in gymnastics. It's not just tumbling and dance. It's showmanship, choreography, playing to the crowd. Wow, that's the dismount that they have been looking for. She finished with her nice double pike dismount. Gives her the confidence going into NCAAs.
If you're paying attention to the other screens, you can see the Other performances there. Ivana Hong getting ready to go for Stanford on the vault. Their first two vault scores. Ashley Morgan had a 9.85. Taylor Rice a 9.9. For Penn State, the leadoff performer, Cassidy Stauder, had a 9.775. Samantha Musto is up now.
Here's Ivana Hong going on her vault. Wow, you got a veteran going, look at me. I can stick this vault when I need to, and she just did.
Alex Archer had a 9.775. So the Stanford Cardinal have 4 excellent vault scores already. A lot of pressure on Penn State on the beam.
Well, like you said earlier, Bart, beam is not the event that you want to feel pressure on. Most gymnasts, they just don't prefer that, because balance beam is that, you know, it's only 4 inches wide, and if your nerves get rattled, the next thing you know, you're popping off one side or the other.
Taylor Spears up now for the Sooners, having a great night leading the all-around competition. Score for Erica Brewer was a 9.85. So the two scores for the Sooners, 9.875 and 9.85.
Taylor's, again, just a high-class beauty to watch. She has long lines. What she does is she draws me into her routine. And that's what you want to do for the judges, is to say, watch me, enjoy my gymnastics with me. Beautiful. Perfect. Taylor has a knack of being able to lift her head up and kind of use her eye contact with the crowd, and that is the key part that draws you in. You can see her. It's like she's saying, hey, are you looking at me? Because I'm going right now.
Well, she's finishing up her routine. Huge scores for Stanford on the vault over there.
You know, she just makes me want to nod my head in affirmation. Beautiful.
Taylor Spears. Christina Vesulik from Stanford nails another vault over there. They got a 9.95 from Ivana Hong and 9.9 from Nicole Dayton. Expect a big score for Vesulik. And Stanford has done what they had hoped to do, which is put enormous pressure on Penn State over on the beam. The Sooners firmly in control on the floor after that lovely routine from Taylor Spears.
That's right. This is going to come down to the wire. So far, Penn State is still solid on balance beam. It's just harder to score the 9.9s and the 9.95s on balance beam versus on vault.
There are two scores over there. Stauder had a 9.775 and Musto a 9.725.
I mean, they are good scores and they're good routines, but like I said, it's just that final tenth or half a tenth that's going to make the difference.
Madison Mooring now from Sallisaw, Oklahoma, the junior. Had a good day so far.
She really has. She has a fun routine. It's different. She, again, also kind of like Taylor, she draws you in from afar. If you don't really know the team that well, you can get these two mixed up. Very similar. They have these long, beautiful legs, long lines that the judges are looking for.
Score for Spears was a 9.875. So the Sooners have two 9.875s and a 9.85 so far.
She also is very flexible. You kind of take that for granted when you're watching, but she has a great sense about her and all aspects of her gymnastics. Now that is new for her. Throw a double pike in her routine. Great job. And last pass is exactly what the Sooners needed if they're going to vie for a national championship, is pulling out those harder dismount last tumbling passes, and she did it.
You know what's great about the Sooners, too? It's late in the season, obviously. They've competed almost every weekend for the last couple of months, and maybe 3 months, and they don't look beat up.
Right.
They actually look pretty darn healthy, don't they?
Not only that, they also don't look tired. They don't look tired in their face. They don't look tired in the gymnastics. You know, a lot of times this part of the season, your body is drained, and you can read it on a gymnast.
Stanford has finished up, Kelly, on the vault. Christina Vasulik's last score, 9.825. So Stanford, the scores that count for them over there are 9.825, 9.85, 2 9.9s, and a 9.95. So,
wow.
Now, Penn State, as you mentioned, is doing well on beam. 9.725, 9.775. Alexis Carroll had a 9.6. Crystal Welsh up now, but these scores are not going to be high enough for Penn State on beam for them to retain a top 2 spot here. Final, second to last performer for OU is Bree Olson. This is always a delight.
It is. Bree is a real crowd pleaser, and she has just blossomed her senior year. You know, this is one of the first things. She hasn't competed in the all-around, and they did have to pull her out of the balance beam lineup, but there was no way they were pulling her off this event. She is just a delight.
She's ranked 17th in the country on this event, 12th in the country in the all-around. As you mentioned, this is rare that she's not in the all-around competition, but she had some consistency issues on beam. And so...
Well, it is all about the team effort. There's no I in team, is that right?
And this is an event where she just shines.
Her energy level is just... I wish I had some of it. Bottle it, right? And again, KJ has highlighted the way she does gymnastics by the choreography. Having choreographed myself, you know, sometimes it's hard to come up with something creative when you've done so many routines, and that does not seem to be an issue for her. It's just excellent.
Senior Bree Olson out of Ultimate Gymnastics, where she did her club gymnastics. She delights with a spectacular floor routine.
I think they had a little hand jive thing going on. For you young gymnasts out there, that is the type of routine the judges are looking for you to perform. So when your coach says you need to sparkle and you need to sell it, that's exactly what they're talking about. And you'll see in a minute when we get the score for her why.
Final performer for the Sooners on the floor will be Haley Skaman. As we mentioned, Stanford is done with a terrific rotation on the vault. Sydney Sanabria Robles from Penn State on the beam. Crystal Welsh before her had a 9.625.
Haley is ranked number 3 in the country on floor exercise. She's the number 1 ranked freshman.
And the Big 12 floor exercise champion, and you're going to see why. She has power to spare, doesn't she?
She really does. And to know that she is a freshman, you know, I'll tell you what, the Sooners have really done a great job in recruiting, because these girls, 3 or 4 freshmen, wow, is that just huge? Is the future of the program here at the University of Oklahoma. It's just rare to have a freshman anchoring 2 of your events. So Rudy right into a layout step out.
I mentioned earlier that KJ Kindler said they didn't in the past recruit for power, but they've decided they have to focus more on that if they want to challenge for the national championship. Athletes who are really big on vault and floor in terms of high-flying, spectacular difficulty. And OU is starting to get that from people like Haley Skaman.
She's just big time. She's Sooner great. Here's her first pass. It is just huge. It's international material right there. It's a beautiful double layout. And you could dance underneath that last double back. It is so high. Wow. Beautiful.
Scores for the Sooners on the floor. Bree Olson had a 9-9. That's been the high score. There was 1.985 for Erica Brewer, and then 3 9.875s, all for Laura Albright, Taylor Spears, and Madison Mooring. And we're likely to see a big score for Haley Skaman, which will put an exclamation point on a Sooner victory here.
That's right. And you know, Haley has scored a 9.975 as her high score, which means one of the judges had given a 10. You know, she is a 10-0 girl on floor. She could easily get that. I don't want to say I want to bet my house on it, but
you have a nice house. I wouldn't bet the whole thing. The beam now for Penn State.
Shreya Musser is up, finishing her beam routine.
Sydney Sanabria Robles had a 9.65, so unfortunately for Penn State, they've had 3 scores in the 9.6 range and 2 in the 9.7. So,
Shreya is ranked 6th on the balance beam in the nation, and so she is one of the greatest gymnasts on the balance beam. She had a slight bobble on her turn, but I'm sure that's incredibly uncharacteristic for her. It's a front aerial, onto Shakot.
They've been a little inconsistent on this event. This is the lowest ranked event for Penn State of the 4 events, 19th.
This right here shows you, Bart, where you have to have depth. I mean, you can't just have one great athlete. I mean, she's 6th in the country. You've got to have more than that. Wow. It's a nice dismount. And you can see why she is so great on the balance beam, why she is ranked so high.
And the final score for the Sooners, Haley Skaman got a 9-9.
You know, even if Penn State does not qualify on to the national championships, I'm sure there will be a couple of girls on their team, or at least Shreya, that will qualify on as an individual. So it's not like her season is over.
Right. Just so impressed with this young lady.
Right.
What a treat to watch her all day long.
Loved her energy in that last part.
From Illinois State, and just every time we get her on screen, she just fills the screen with a happy smile. She had a spectacular meet. Good for her. And I bet she was thrilled to be able to rotate around with the Sooners, who were also equally enthusiastic.
That certainly helps, and her coach told me that they have really just wrapped their arms around her and encompassed her in during warm-ups, and because they understand it's hard to be there alone and not have your teammates all of a sudden after all year having them there to support you.
Catherine Dion now the final performer.
I love that mount on the balance beam. I'm so into the creative aspect, and when my jaw drops to the floor, usually it's pretty cool. That was really unique.
Dion from University of Illinois, Chicago.
She has a presence about her on the balance beam. Nice to watch. Switch leap to pike jump. You can see the finish all the way through to her fingertips. I call those Shannon Miller fingers. She does it beautiful from toe to finger. Shannon was so great at having perfect grace and dance. Not too bad on a full-in dismount either off the balance beam. Beautiful job.
And that'll wrap it up today for the 2013 NCAA Regional Gymnastics Championships. That's the final performance.
We believe Washington beat.
Don't go away. We'll talk to winning coach KJ Kindler of the Oklahoma Sooners, and we'll give you the final standings, and we'll let you know who qualified to the NCAA Gymnastics Championship, which comes up in a couple of weeks. Don't go away.
Now my head's in the clouds. They can't bring me down. Got a smile on my face. Can they see me now? See me now.
And welcome back to Norman, Oklahoma. This one is in the record books, the 2013 NCAA Gymnastics Regional Championship for women. And as expected, the Oklahoma Sooners get the win. Second-seeded Stanford ends up placing second. A little bit of a surprise here is that Penn State was a little shaky on the beam, and Washington had a terrific meet. And by .05, Washington gets the third spot, Penn State fourth, Southern Utah fifth, and the University of Iowa sixth place. We're going to talk to head coach KJ Kindler in a minute about her experience here and how she felt the Sooners did. Kelly Garrison, your thoughts on the Oklahoma Sooners as we look ahead to the NCAA championships, which will come up in a couple of weeks. You know, in the 31 years of the championships, it's only been won by 4 teams.
Right.
Georgia, Alabama, Utah, and UCLA. It seems to be that there's 2 teams in the mix that might, you know, graduate to Tier 1, and that's either the University of Florida or the University of Oklahoma. Now, what did you see from Oklahoma tonight that makes you think they might have a shot at being the next team to break into that Tier 1 level of NCAA championship?
Well, I'll tell you what, they brought some additional difficulty to the routines. And so I think they looked at this competition as a real preparation for the national championships. It's not just for winning regionals and qualifying, but they were preparing their athletes to win that national championship. And I think they've watched the Florida teams of the world and Georgia and Alabama and said, what do we have to do in order to bring home that national title? And you know what? That's what the Sooners have worked all year for. So I think they really prepared today and demonstrated today what they're going to take in 2 weeks.
All right, we're also going to take a look at the all-around competition today because that was a tight battle. Of course, we highlighted at the top of the competition that Taylor Spears was one of the top-ranked all-around gymnasts in the country, number 6. She ended up with a 39.525. Sharia Musser of Penn State had a 39.375.
You can see how only just 1/10 here or there, a step, a hop on a dismount, an unpointed toe, all those are making a difference to see who wins the all-around competition.
Take a look at some highlights of Taylor Spears' competition today.
You know, Taylor has just been rock solid all season long. If you're going to pick anyone on your team, you're going to pick her first.
All right, well, we have a chance now to catch up with OU's head coach KJ Kindler in her 8th season, and she has a unique distinction because she's the only coach in NCAA history to lead 2 separate programs to the NCAA championships. She did it at Iowa State, and she's done it with Oklahoma, and she's taken the Sooners once again to the NCAA championships out at UCLA in a couple of weeks. KJ, your impressions of your team tonight, start to finish.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for the seniors from Penn State University. And now from the University of Washington, remote roulette testing, Paige Bixler. From Plains, Pennsylvania.
Apologies there because KJ Kindler's microphone went dead on us, so apologies for the technical difficulties. We hope to get that fixed, and we'll try to get back to her in a minute.
Hello.
Oh, I think I hear her now.
There I am.
She's crackling in. Should we try that again?
Yeah.
Hi, KJ. It's Bart. I hope you heard my question. I'm sorry we couldn't hear you.
Okay, well, I was just saying I thought we started off really hot on vault, really focused on our landings, and I thought they were great. We were very happy with that. Also, you know, Keely coming in there in the third spot. It's her first time back for 4 weeks, so I was glad to get her out there, kind of get some of the jitters out. And then we had to handle the bye really well, which I think we did, and overcame a rough bar warm-up also. So bars was, I thought, fantastic. Again, landings were better than they have been, so that's something we've been focusing on. And then balance beam, obviously a couple shaky routines in there, but Rebecca Clark's never competed in the postseason, so she's getting a little bit, she was, I think, a little more nervous than normal. And she missed her series and had to back up and try it again. I thought she actually handled it really well. And then Keely, again, getting out there for the first time, did a great job. I mean, a little soft on the landing, and I know she can do better, but I thought the rest of the beam rotation was great. And then floor was just like the exclamation point at the end. I thought flawless rotation for us.
How are you going to prepare, KJ, for the next 2 weeks getting ready for nationals?
Well, I just talked to our team, and I said, you know, it starts now. You go home, you get your rest, you start to rehydrate. I mean, we're very meticulous about what we do, and we'll be focusing on our landings. They made a big difference tonight, and I want them to be a little more aggressive on balance beam. I'm definitely going to coach them up to that, and then obviously continue to work on our landings and refine everything. But I think they're in a good place. I think we're on our way up to that peaking situation we talked about.
Well, congratulations, KJ, once again, and now you're taking the Oklahoma Sooners to their 13th NCAA championship appearance. Congratulations. We'll see you in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly, it was a great competition tonight, and as expected, Oklahoma got the win. Stanford was impressive, and we talked about them peaking later in the season. They didn't look too great when we saw them a few weeks ago, but they looked sharper tonight, didn't they?
And even after the first event, I was a little concerned, but they really pulled it off. They had some outstanding performances, and I guess that philosophy works.
All right, it was a great night of gymnastics. We're glad you could join us. Remember, there was 36 teams competing all around the country today in 6 different regionals. And from the Oklahoma-Norman regional, the Oklahoma Sooners and Stanford Cardinal will advance to the NCAA championships. It was a great night. We're glad you've joined us. For Kelly Garrison Funderburk, I'm Bar Connor. Thanks for joining us on Sooner Sports Television. We'll see you next time.